Perfect.
Hello, welcome to your fairy tale wedding show. I am your host, Claudia Chan. Today we have an exciting episode for you because we are going to be talking about destination wedding photography. And we have Ania Rubiec from Ania Studios today here with us. With her combined fashion photography skills and her wedding photography skills, every single picture that she takes is a magical moment. So welcome, Anna.
Hello, everybody.
You.
I feel so excited now to start actually talking about destination.
Yes, we are. I am super excited about this too. So, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and how you
Of
got into
course.
wedding photography?
So I kind of started as a normal photographer start. At a younger age, I went from portraits to basically fashion. And as I was getting older, I went into bridal because, of course, all my friends were getting married. And as a referencing started coming through, I started falling in love with bridal. And it was such an intimate kind of moment between like a subject, let's say a couple, and a photographer. I just fell in love with it. So it's more of it became more of a passion, and now it's more of a base of a career, which I'm so grateful for because I just do what I love doing that right now. So right now, I want to say the last 5 years I've become more of a destination photographer, which I'm very grateful for. So I get to experience the whole kind of like a destination honeymoon part with the couple. So we went to go explore the locations together and basically get to know the family more. So it's not like the 1 day kind of wedding experience. I'm basically with the couple for almost a week at this point. So
That
it's
is so awesome.
amazing.
And I love all your destination wedding
Yeah.
photographs that you take. Is you just bring out the exoticness in the location and the
It's
love.
definitely,
So
yeah,
good.
it's definitely like the one thing that a lot of couples hire for is the whole experience. So we basically scout out the location. It's a lot more different, let's say, based in Toronto, since I live here. It's
Mhm.
like, it's definitely Toronto has its nice little niches, like the buildings, a little bit more different hidden gemstones. But of course, you have like the palm trees, or let's say Portugal itself, you have the castles, and that's a lot different kind of look why people are hiring photographers for that.
So for destination wedding, and there's also called an elopement wedding, what are the differences between the two types of wedding?
So elopements back then used to be more like a couple basically running away and getting married. Now those terms actually basically change. So eloping it's more of an intimate kind of wedding. So it's a little bit less, let's say your guest list is about 20, 30 people, that would probably consider more of an elopement wedding, and opposed to also getting married on a weekend. So elopements are midday usually, like midweek.
Mm-hmm.
Destination would be considered during the weekend. I want to say elopements are a little bit more intimate, very smaller. They go to, let's say, best way to describe is destination. A lot more vendors are more involved and a lot more coordination, and especially kind of considering your guests. Elopement is basically all about the couple and bonding and experiencing what they want to do. So basically erasing the traditions and doing what they basically please and what they think is right for them.
I see.
More of a personal connection.
So for couples who are planning a destination wedding, why would they want to hire a destination wedding photographer versus hiring a local photographer that's at the resort per se?
That's a really good question. So I do come across that kind of question off from couples, especially. So let's say the pros and cons to it kind of vary too. So it can be depending if you're budget friendly. So let's say if you're more budget wary, maybe having a local photographer might be a little bit more considerate of your budget opposed to destination. But then hiring a destination photographer has its own pros itself because you get to maybe meet the destination photographer. It's a little bit more closer to home, so you get to know them at a bit more personal level. You can have as many on phone calls, meetings, and building that rapport and bond together, and then you're basically traveling together with that photographer. So right there, you're already making that connection. You and your photographer already know what kind of images you're kind of wanting to get. So the whole concept and process of is a little bit more on the same page opposed to hiring a photographer who's already on local or basically based in the resort. So the ones on the resort, they may have like a language barrier, for instance. So they may not have the same kind of communication skills beforehand, or maybe not on the same industry level where your destination photographers might be at. Most of the destination photographers, we always educate ourselves. We're always on the wedding trend, so we kind of know how to, let's say, approach each client a little bit more differently, opposed to maybe the resort. They're maybe more on keen of just being hired for those days, and that's all. So when you have a destination photographer too, we basically kind of help be there for the couple too. We basically were hired for the rehearsal dinners. We'll be there for the rehearsal dinners the day of, and even the following day we'll be maybe there for adventure sessions those are really popular too. So it's kind of more, instead of like a 1 day kind of experience, we're there for a few days. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe for the resorts, they're only going to be charged for the day of.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's say if you go over their timeline, you'll have these hidden fees that most resorts won't tell you of.
Mm-hmm.
That goes in both cases. So it honestly depends on each couple. Budget kind of friendly, it's maybe more better to go with resort. But if you're more into craft and your appreciation of having that the wedding photos more of a high importance, destinations is where to be at. Hiring your actual style, make sure it's all the same coordination as well. Each photographer has its own style, and it's hard to kind of choose the ones from resorts. The resorts are the ones usually advertised through their companies. It's not usually the same photography that you kind of expect. So the
Mm-hmm.
resorts have that one little style, and it's different types of photographers. You really don't know who you're basically getting and what to expect.
Now, since we're talking about getting to know your photographer a little bit more and things like that, in order to get the relationship going, is there like 2 to 3 criteria that a couple should look into when they are hiring their photographer?
Definitely, first thing that most couples ask is like, "Oh, what's your experience? Have you been to that location, for instance, in resort?" That is usually a little bit more beneficial too. If you haven't been there, it might be a little bit more eerie or just like a little bit more of a concern. Just making sure that you know the location. Not it's not negative not being able to not know the location. Always adventure off a little bit more sooner before the actual day of. So we scout out the location beforehand. If we haven't been there before, get a good feel of how everything looks like, knowing when the sun's setting, the sun's rising as well, having that kind of lighting scenarios already kind of in our minds. Having that the actual destination experience does help a lot too. Keeping in mind the photography style. So if couples are looking at photographers, making sure that that style suits them as well. So if you're looking into Brett and Airy, make sure you choose a photographer that can execute that kind of style, and the scenarios itself too. So if you're doing a beach wedding, look at their photos, make sure their beach wedding photos kind of suit your style. If you're dark and moody, look for those photographers that kind of go in hand. So that way down the line, there's no arguments or disappointments. Another thing too, if you're into printing, check out some of their albums as well. Not everybody does similar albums. Maybe they customize their albums towards their style. So they'll choose their photos or they'll choose everything of your customization, or see if you can put some input before your work is being printed too.
Mm-hmm.
Post-production, depending on how you're comfortable with. Maybe you want to do some more skin retouching. Maybe you want to do some a little small fixes. See how the photographer is a little bit more flexible. And honestly, just connection is key. If you're not connected with your photographer and you don't have that bond, there could be a little bit more, I want to say, the comfortable level might be not there. And it shows in photos too. And if you're not comfortable and you're not smiling, the emotion shows in photos.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to fake it.
Yeah, that connection with your photographer is definitely
Yeah.
something that is very important. And you do want to find someone who you can bond with. And especially if you're on a destination wedding, you'll be with that photographer for
Travel experience is definitely necessary.
us. Yes, yes.
Being comfortable and being adaptable. Adaptable has been huge. Clearly, I'm a cat person. Okay.
So funny.
So
So
when I'm not doing weddings, I'm a cat.
it's great to have it in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so now for couples who are thinking of a destination wedding, are there 2 or 3 things that they should be mindful of to get ready for this trip?
So I would honestly suggest doing, let's say, hiring a wedding planner. So hiring wedding coordinations of the venue is a lot more different than hiring coordinations of day of. So let's say I would honestly suggest bringing a wedding planner from your location to a destination. This way you have a lot of time where you guys can be planning together. They're familiar with what you kind of wanted to get, and the language barrier itself again is huge. So they get to know your family already. They care for it because they flew all across seas as well too. So their privilege is to make you happy. So
Mhm.
having that on coordination is very important, because I find as a photographer, it is hard to coordinate back and forth. It's like we're at times we are like the planner and the photographer, but having that stress level taken off your shoulder is so much more better. So
Mhm.
much more better. It's like take one hat off at least.
Oh, I know.
And then also knowing what to bring to basically the destination. So I always consider my couples, at least the bride herself, bring a dress that's a little bit more travel friendly.
Mm.
So I've worked with Grace Lovelace a lot, and their dresses are very nice, very elegant, authentic, and very travel friendly. So most of the time they're very more lacy, light, and if you put them in suitcases, they don't get wrinkled. So something that's a little bit like wrinkle free, you're not stressing too much about it. That's always a bonus too.
Mm-hmm.
They're like almost like eco friendly, so like it's perfect. It's
Mm-hmm.
like perfect for like yourself, and it's very light. So it's not like if you're going to a destination wedding where it's a very more humid, you're not uncomfortable. You're not having a big ball gown, the silks and everything. It's kind of too tight on you. It's different if you're doing it on location side of venue. When you're dealing with weather, there's a lot of different concerns coming kind of leading on to the bride for herself. Maybe arriving early as well is one thing to kind of keep in mind too.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say if you're getting married on Wednesday, for instance, arriving, let's say, on a weekend is a lot more better than arriving a day or two beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, the 3-4 days arriving early kind of gets everybody settled in. The jet lag's kind of wearing off, so you're a little bit more comfortable. You're not as tired, and
Mm-hmm.
then in the long run too, you kind of do save money too, because if you're missing anything, you have those few days to basically explore and let's say buy whatever you need to buy for the venue, or if you're missing candles, you buy it there. So there's a lot of couples and brides who are always asking what I bring with me as centerpieces and decorations. I'm like, honestly, I wouldn't bring so much with it, but if there's like sentimental things like your grandma's photos or photo frames, you want to do like a little memorial kind of section, or there's some little meaning thing for your tradition, of course bring those on too,
Yeah.
but don't leave it to yourself, disperse it to your family members. So if
Mm-hmm.
everybody's allowed to bring like a carry-on, have your sister bring something, have your aunt bring another thing, have your grandma bring another thing, so it's not all your responsibilities onto the bride herself.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
that's why I
very
suggest all
good
these
idea.
couples go through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like when you're going for a destination wedding, the idea is that you're having everything set up there. Other than something that is very emotionally attached to you, then you really shouldn't have to bring too much of everything else.
I would say for the couples, less is more. The
Mm-hmm.
less things you bring is a little bit less responsibility you have on yourself. And at the end of the day, you don't really remember all the little things. It's more like experience itself. So if you remember you being stressful, you're gonna remember your day like your wedding day actually being very stressful. You know what I mean? So if you're gonna remember yourself, oh, it's that you forgot that, and you don't really think about it, you're not gonna forget. You're not gonna remember that one moment that you forgot a photo frame or you forgot one centerpiece, because you'll have a few images of that, but it's not all based around your wedding.
And that's such a great tip. So we're coming to a close. I know that we have a free gift for our viewer. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about this gift?
Of course. So I'll be offering a free mini guide for wedding destination and elopement. So everything that we kind of discussed over here in the videos, I have a lot more different tips coming over. So from how to keep the process very simple and easy, what to bring, who to reach out to, all the vendors I kind of do recommend just checking out as well. You're gonna have a little mini guide, kind of having a wedding experience a little bit more easier for you guys. So
That's so awesome. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Uh,
I'm here.
for today. I have such a great time chatting with you, and I always have great time working with you. Thank you again for coming on to our show, and looking forward to working with you again.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.